Evening, everyone. I know everyone is kind of slowly trickling in from the Zoom waiting room, so I am going to give it a few seconds before we jump right in. But thank you all for joining us this evening. I'm seeing those numbers tick on up, so while everybody starts to kind of trickle in and get settled, I'm going to take the time to introduce myself, and we'll go over a few housekeeping notes before we jump into this evening's webinar. My name's Allison Verheyen. I am one of the student advocates here at UOnline, and I have the great pleasure of working with all of our sport administration students throughout the program within their first year. So it is one of the greatest joys of mine to be able to work with these fine people. So hopefully everyone attending tonight, you guys get all of your questions answered and learn a little bit more about this really phenomenal program that we have here at the University of Miami. I get to host this, but the real stars will be introducing here shortly. But just a couple housekeeping notes to kind of go through. We are aiming to keep this at 45 minutes. I know depending upon where you are in the country, it's either a late dinner time, or maybe if you're out on the West Coast, you're just kind of getting off of work. So we want to be mindful of your time. We know that you're all very busy individuals. So we're going to keep this to 45 minutes, and I will keep my eye on the clock there. We're also recording this. So if you need to scoot out early, or perhaps maybe you're juggling dinner for kids or something and you miss one or two things, we will be providing this recording after the fact. So have no fear. You'll have access to this afterwards. I am also available to answer any questions you might have about kind of our enrollment process, and we'll detail that a little bit more at the end of the session as well. But if maybe you're like me and you think of those questions after the fact, if you're kind of mulling over all the information once we conclude this evening, all of our contact information is below for our enrollment advisors. We've got an awesome team who are always happy to answer those questions that you have. You can give us a call, or we have a really great live chat feature that you can access off of our website as well. But without further ado, get rid of kind of all those housekeeping items. And now let's jump right into these phenomenal panelists. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We have four really, really wonderful individuals with us tonight. So I will turn it over first to Dr. Wendy Dees, and maybe we can just kind of cycle through with the group. Dr. Dees?
Thank you, Allison, so much for putting this wonderful informational event on for us. And welcome everybody who's joining us this evening. We're extremely happy to have you. And we're very appreciative and grateful that you're considering the University of Miami for your graduate studies. We know you have a lot of options out there. And so we feel very grateful that you're considering So thank you for being here and welcome. I'm Dr. Wendy Dees. I'm not only a professor in the Sport Administration Master's program, but I'm also the graduate program director. So if you have any questions going forward, you can contact UOnline, but you can also contact me as well. And then hopefully if you do become one of our master students in the future, then I also teach in the program, and you would have two classes with me, and I teach sport marketing and sports sponsorship.
Hi, my name is Ivan Nichols, and I am the Director of Presidential Events in the Office of the President at the University of Miami. I graduated from NC State and then enrolled in the Miami Online program. I got transferred to the in-person program, being that I accepted a job at the University of Miami in the athletics department. I was there for about 5 years and have worked in the president's office at UM for the last 2.5.
Are we going to me? I'll go. Hi, everyone. This is Leslie Fitzpatrick. I graduated from the program in 2016. I am now the head of talent ID and recruitment for the New York Red Bulls in the MLS. I primarily work with the academy kids, so from U12 to U17, and then into the second team professionally. And it's a wonderful program. It certainly helped me to be in this position that I'm in right now, and looking forward to just continuing answering questions throughout the night, and to meeting all of you, and to hopefully you guys becoming future Canes.
Hi, my name is Elliot Safdie. I graduated from the University of Miami Sports Management program a few years ago. And I currently work at American Airlines, but I've been there for about 32 years. I'm also retired military, but I'm preparing myself to do something post-airline work. So right now I'm engaged pretty heavy with youth sports. I'm a volunteer with the Orange Bowl Committee, Ave Maria Little League, and I do coach some student athletes that are university bound. So anything I could do to help pass on valuable information, that's what I'm here for. I'm looking forward to it.
Perfect. Thanks y'all so much for that. I did just realize that there was another housekeeping note that I totally forgot to mention, and this might be the most important one. We have a chat feature on this Zoom. So for all of our prospective students on the Zoom call, if you have questions, go ahead and chat them. I am monitoring it very closely, so we will make sure that you get all of your questions answered. That is literally what you're here for. We have some that we've kind of come up ourselves, so I'll get started on some of those questions that we already have, but maybe if that sparks an interest, or you have something that you came here specifically to learn, feel free to chat that and we'll be able to get that to all of our panelists. But let's get started with our alumni. I am very curious, because I'm sure a lot of our prospective students on this call are also curious, what made you decide to do the University of Miami UOnline Sport Administration program? What attracted you to the program? And specifically, because I'm sure it wasn't just one and done, what made you decide Miami over maybe some other institutions that you were considering?
I can kick us off. So I am very much one to research in depth to something before I commit to it. That's kind of how I'm not easily persuaded. So I need like concrete evidence before making a decision, especially one like school that is going to impact my life. So I visited several different programs in person, and also researched several online programs, mostly in North Carolina. And they there was something missing about all of them that I was like looking for and yearning for within this degree. And I had researched University of Miami, and I was like, wait a second. There's so many connections. The faculty are so well represented across so many different areas of sport. And just the connections that they have with Miami being such a professional sport hub, but also college sport hub. The University of Miami is very well known in their sports and athletics. So a lot of that was just like, wait a second, this is what I was looking for, that a lot of those other schools didn't necessarily have to the extent. Everyone has connections, but I guess I was looking for something special with that. So I think that was something that was very distinctive about this program versus others. The connections into sport, the alumni base, the trustees, the fan base, the donors, just the brand of the U, and knowing what like having the University of Miami on my, on my degree, on my resume meant. I think that was something that was very prominent. I mean, the U is like one of the most, if not the most recognized logo in sports. So when I was traveling abroad with the program, we went to London, everyone was throwing up the U at the airport. And I mean, we're all the way across the pond, and people are still recognizing the U. So I think it felt good to know that I'm involved in a program that is so well known, not just in the state, not just in the country, but across the entire globe. Another thing that I truly enjoyed was the online program was the same as in person. And I can attest to that, being I was a product of both. Started in UOnline, and then once I got the job at the University of Miami in their athletic department, I had to switch to in person. And the program was the same. The professors were the same. It was the same curriculum. So I didn't feel like I was, getting rigged on one part and not the other. I felt very confident in what I was learning and who they were. They had flexibility when I was online. At NC State, I was involved in all 23 varsity sports and game operations. And as some of you know who have done sports, game ops is one of the hardest departments. You have very little free time, and the flexibility and time management that I had to do on my end, but the professors were also understanding of that, I think was bar none to several other schools that I had looked at.
Do you want me to go, Elliot? I can go. Um, yeah, I mean, like Iva, she took so many of the things out of my own script as well too. I guess the difference for me and really highlighting what she talked about, the global brand. I grew up in Trinidad and Tobago, small island in the Caribbean, only 1.2 million people, and played soccer all my life and was looking at going pro, going to university first. Ended up going to university first, and one of the few schools that I knew about was the University of Miami. So it was like my dream school to go to. Wanted to go there. They did not have a D1 soccer program for men undergrad. So I ended up going to another school first. And you know, as Iva said, always recognize you, knew about its pedigree, knew about the alumni network. Obviously, the location was something that you always dream about, being in Miami. And, you know, once I started researching, I was a lot better than me at researching, but I certainly, you know, I did my own work as well. And, you know, just understanding that the degree was going to be the same as the in-person degree, professors were going to be the same. Certainly being able to tap into the network once you graduate or even while you're in school. I was able to go down to campus a couple times while I was enrolled and met with Dr. Dees and a couple of the professors, and that was amazing. So I think when you look at the alternatives, there's really no program that offers you that online experience and the degree that compares to the U. And you know, I guess my success post graduation within the sports industry is testament to that. Just, you know, where I've been able to go in terms of trajectory and what even lies ahead. A big part of that is totally due to the degree that I got from the U. So you know, when looking at school, certainly do your research and look into it, but I challenge you to find something better than this.
All right, I'll just add a few small notes because both of you basically hit it out of the park. I echo everything that Iva and Tiger has said, but I'll just round it out with a couple of little pieces here. The class size is very important. I did some research and found that some of the other schools had larger class sizes, and I thought I needed to be in a smaller group setting. I thought it would have tailored to my needs better, and as a result, I was correct. So the class size is important. I don't know exactly what the ratio is today, but it's relatively small. They're small groups, and everybody in the group is pretty much trying to achieve the same thing. They're looking forward to a career in sports, and post graduation, I've stayed networked with several of my classmates, and they're all working for major sports teams. Back office, front office, on the field. So everybody seems to be very well connected, and the alumni base is very well connected. And what I found out after graduation is that the school is not going to forget about you. They're always going to reach back to you via meetings, invitations, conferences, symposiums, and just general network. And our alumni base is great. I travel a lot for a living. So what I try to do is catch up with the alumni that are in different states when they're having like game watches and things like that. And you come across people from all walks of life, and they all graduated or they're fans of the University of Miami. So great networking availability with the University of Miami.
Thank you guys so much. You all knocked it out of the park. So much so that I was like, wow, they're answering stuff that I didn't even think to ask. So I do want to deep dive though, because one thing that every single one of you mentioned was this incredible network that we have. And whether you are located in the area and can physically step on campus, or whether you are international, you're able to tap into this network. So I'm going to swing it over to Dr. Dees. How in the world do you guys do this? How do you make this so accessible to students? I'm thinking of maybe somebody who is on this call who's like, yeah, that sounds great, but I wouldn't even know where to begin. How do we make these connections? I mean, especially with, I'm thinking the Florida Panthers, that's a big one. But could you maybe deep dive a little bit more, Dr. Dees, into how we create these opportunities for students?
Sure. Everything that our alums mentioned previously, it's not something that happens spontaneously. It's absolutely by design, not only with the faculty, but at the UOnline level. That's a huge part of our brand at the University of Miami. So people mention this. It's a very global brand. That's by design. It's a very high touch point brand, meaning you'll have a lot of access to your professors, a lot of access to your classmates and your colleagues. To Elliot's point, when he asked about the class size, you're in classes of 25 or less. I have an upper division class this semester with students who are finishing up, and I have 8. So we're all going to get to know each other really well. I joke around with my students that once the class sizes get under 10, we're like our own little dysfunctional family. So you get to know each other so well that I don't know, it maybe too well. But yes, so that helps tremendously in terms of building relationships. So I think everyone here on the panel touched on things that relate to relationships, and specifically industry relationships. So to Allison's point, we have a very specific infrastructure that we use to build our network. So that's kind of the broad piece of it, to build the network very wide. But then all of the people that we come in contact with, we build a very deep relationship with those folks. So it's not a big, wide expanse of alums that barely know each other. It's a broad network, but they're people that we build very deep relationships with. So the way that we do that is obviously, one, the small class sizes where everyone gets to know their teammates and their professors. Allison is one of the wonderful advisors, and so that's extremely important. You'll have access to your wonderful advising team as well. So props to our advising team. But one of the first things we do, we build global partnerships. A partnership that we've had for the last 3 or 4 years is with La Liga. So we actually have a lot of graduate students that are flying out either today or tomorrow to Madrid because they're going to be studying for the next 2 weeks at the executive offices for La Liga in Europe. And they're going to spend the next 2 weeks having an immersive experience learning about global soccer, and doing so by visiting all the different La Liga clubs and organizations. And then it's a partnership where next year, or I believe in 2 years, they come here and learn about American sport with us in Miami. And so that's an incredible partnership that we've been able to establish. All of our UOnline students have access to doing study abroad. So that's another thing when Tiger's talking about, ask other programs what opportunities are available to interface with your professors and your colleagues face to face. Anything that our on-campus graduate program offers, our UOnline students are offered or afforded those opportunities well. So you can do study abroad. We have partnerships in South America. So we have students that just returned from Brazil and Belo Horizonte, and they were also learning about global soccer and volleyball and martial arts down in South America. We build domestic partnerships. So one of our biggest domestic partnerships that was also recently signed is with the Florida Panthers, the professional NHL team. And you saw on that first slide, we're the official education partner of the Florida Panthers. So what that means is we work in tandem with that professional organization. So we provide interns that get experience working in the front office of a professional organization. By the way, #1 team in the NHL right now on top of the standings, and played in the Stanley Cup last year. So that's an incredible front office experience right now. We have students working for the Florida Panthers in every one of their front office departments right now. And then in return, in that partnership, the Panthers supply scholarship money. They supply stipends for students to work full time. They provide networking opportunities. And then the internships are designed as on the job training such that those students can slide into open full time positions when they're finished, if those positions are available. We offer an on-campus in April, a sport industry conference where we bring about 50 or 60 global sport executives to campus for our students to interface with those folks for a day or a day and a half and network and learn best practices from them. So there's a ton of things that we do to build our network. But again, I just also want to point out that it's breadth and depth. And I say that authentically because all 3 alums that are on the info session tonight, I have personal relationships with all 3. They're incredible sport executives, but I can also speak to the fact that they're even better human beings because I know all of them personally. So whether we've had lunch or dinner, or Iva and I have traveled Europe together, so we've spent some of that dysfunctional family time traveling the world with one another because she did the study abroad trip, and then Elliot and Tiger are, have been to campus and spent time with their U family, which we encourage everyone to do. So I think the folks on the call could attest to the fact that you will have the breadth of the network to come to you wherever you are, because Cane Nation is everywhere, both domestically and globally. But also, if you come to campus, you will have a U family while you're in the program and beyond.
That is so well said. And I think this has been touched on with everyone, but just to reiterate, not all programs have such a nice flow to them, but really with the sport admin program at UOnline, you can absolutely be a UOnline student and take advantage of the sport industry conference, or take advantage of the study abroad, or take advantage of these incredible, oftentimes paid internships. And that's, I think, a rarity sometimes. And so it's so nice because I think a lot of online programs will claim, oh, you'll feel just like you're on campus. But we back that up. And so it's my joy to hear from my students. Oh, I just got off the phone with Dr. Dees the other week, and we were talking about sports in Louisiana. I just talked to a student who had that experience, Dr. Dees. So it's every single day I get to hear a new story. So it really is authentic with all of the sort of little tidbits that have been shared so far this evening. But moving along, so we've talked about kind of the program, right? You're studying, but now we're talking about internships, and we recognize that everybody on this call is probably either a full-time professional or has a family or all of the above. It gets busy and it gets fast. So for our alumni on the call, could you guys maybe share a little bit about how you figured out that balance? How does being a UOnline student help with that balance? And what did kind of your day-to-day look like once you enrolled in the program?
I'll jump on this. For me, the program worked really well. I was traveling quite extensively to South America and the Caribbean. So I found that the program was very helpful in allowing me to set up my personal schedule and complement my school schedule. So I traveled with books in hand everywhere I went, and I basically got my work done when I had free time. And I knew on which evenings I had to submit written documents or papers, or get on the discussion board or whatnot. So it was very flexible. You could be anywhere in the world, in any time zone, just about any atmosphere, and get the work done. So I highly recommend it for anybody that's on the go. Don't worry. Don't let that stop you. You can accommodate this course and get it done. So that's my advice is, don't let your schedule hold you back from enrolling in an online degree. You can definitely get it done.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
echoing, oh, go ahead,
Oh,
Leslie.
yeah, sorry. No, I can, just expand on that. For me, playing professionally, obviously time management was one of the biggest things that you had to understand. And certainly this allowed me to really put that into practice because at that point in time, I'd started, managing a family, a full-time job. And so the fact that you have the flexibility to be able to know what the coursework is weekly ahead of time, you can really set your schedule. I remember I would be, for me, I'm a night owl because you get so busy during the day with emails and calls and all of that, that the downtime to really get the work done, for me, even now, is maybe between, 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. And so that fit perfectly into my schedule. I would get most of my work done at that time, then just decompress. And I didn't have to go into the office until, let's say, about 10 a.m. So I could really find that like niche in terms of this is what works for my study schedule weekly. This is what works for my professional schedule. And then this is the family time. Soccer is evenings and weekends in the youth space. So, when it came to exams and all that, I could prepare. I could take it on the day that it was set, and then I could go off onto the field. The only one challenge I had sometimes was in group activity, just because you have to try to align schedules. But even within that, the professors are really good at helping you, and most of the other students are also working professionals. So we all kind of banded together to figure out what worked best. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about the program as well.
Yeah, and echoing what both of them said, when I was doing online and doing game operations, when I'm working all 23 varsity sporting events, in addition to venue rentals, all of our sporting events are during everyone else's leisurely time. So that's when people can buy the ticket to go to the event. And it was tough. And I would love to say that everything just worked very smooth and it fit right in and you didn't even know, but like you make time for what's important to you, right? So I never like ran out of time. But I did have to say no to some things socially that I would have liked to be with my friends or whatever. But at the same time, that was what was important to me was working and getting my degree. So you do it, with any time commitment that you have that you're taking on, you just make small sacrifices to get to your larger goal. With small class sizes, I will say the professors learn who you are. And when you have a conflict, like they understand they're humans and they know that you're working. And whether it's working or you have a family or whatever the issue may be, just being able to have that personal relationship with them and for them to get to know you and work through it and find a solution. It's not like, okay, you don't have time, so I'm sorry, you're gonna have to stop for this semester. Like it's one of those, it's like, how can we make this work on both sides? So I think having the experience, not only of both online and in person for me, but I also was an adjunct lecturer for the program in fall of 2020. And just being able to develop those relationships and for them to understand and still want to help you, even though you're going through whatever may be, I think that was extremely important. And part of graduate school is the opportunity to get experience in addition to your education. So they want you to be able to go out into the world, find that real world experience, and then to be able to translate that in your education. It's different than undergrad where you're still trying to develop yourself and find who you are. Like, what you want to do, what the goal is, and it's just getting there and having that support system to help get you there. So they understand that it's your job, it's your family, it's paying bills, but they're humans. And I think having that relationship because of the small class size was what made that extremely special and for it to work.
And I think that was a great piece of advice. I think there will always be a reason not to start something. There's always going to feel like a busy season. There's always going to be that next thing. But if this is your goal, if this is the long-term plan, do it. Start it now, and then you'll prioritize. You'll figure out what socially are you going to have to say no to. The thing that I love about this program, it's a 5-semester program. So that's my favorite thing to tell students when they get started is, hey, we have an end date in mind, and it's really not that far. You can do anything for 5 semesters.
Yeah, it's not forever.
It's not forever. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I think when we work together and when we have the faculty that are just cheering you on and you build these beautiful relationships with your classmates. I know they're the group me's or the WhatsApps or however the cohort decides to sort of do it. But you're forming this community and it's just something that's really special. And so you can do anything for 5 semesters for sure. I am looking at the clock, so we've been chit-chatting for about 30 minutes now, and I promised everyone at the beginning of the hour that we would keep it to 45 minutes. So haven't seen any chats come through just yet. If you do have questions, now would be a great time to get those in because we want to make sure that we do get all of your questions answered as prospective students. We're just up here chatting and having fun. So make sure you guys get those questions in if you have them. Dr. Dees, I did want to ask you because we have been talking a lot about our faculty and they are very, very special in this department. Could you maybe share a little bit about what really sets them apart from some of the other faculty, maybe at other institutions? What are their greatest strengths that teach in this program?
Sure. This is another big component that I would encourage students to look at when you're doing your IVA early research. I would definitely look at the faculty and their qualifications and not just, what classes are being taught, but who's teaching the classes. And I get the question, why Miami all of the time? And I would absolutely put, besides the industry experience, I would put the faculty also as an answer to that question. So if you're doing research on different programs, then you want to ask questions like, are the full-time faculty who are teaching on campus teaching in the program? Do the faculty teaching my classes have terminal degrees? Meaning, do they have the highest degree in their field? Do they have a PhD? Do they have an EDD? Do they have a law degree? Are adjuncts teaching in my program? Some of the larger programs will have the full-time faculty teaching on campus, and they will have adjuncts teaching in the online program. So all of the alums on here mentioned that, and especially Iva, who started off in the online program and then switched to in-person when she became an employee at the University of Miami. We weren't fake. We were in the classroom when she got here. So it was exactly the same people. Also, you might want to ask if graduate assistants are teaching in the online program, because oftentimes you have doctoral students who are working under their professors, and the professors are teaching on campus while the doctoral graduate assistants are teaching in the online program. So these are all, what we call quality components or quality factors, quality indicators. And so our full-time faculty all have their terminal degrees. So you're learning from faculty who have the highest level degree in their field. They're also all researchers. So everything that we're teaching is something that we have a high degree of research expertise in. All of the faculty have industry experience. So everyone on our faculty has not only gone and gotten their terminal degree, but they either worked in the industry first and then got their degree, or got their degree and went and worked in the industry and came back, or a lot of us are just connected to the industry at the same time. So you will see a lot of your faculty at industry events. Iva knows one of the reasons why we're still close to this day. Our whole faculty is known on a first name basis to everyone in our athletic department. So a lot of schools, that's not the case. No one in the athletic department knows who the faculty are. The faculty don't know anyone in athletics. We have a really strong relationship with our athletic department such that they reach out to us to staff a lot of their events and internships and graduate assistantships. Our athletic department folks are in our classroom. You heard that Iva got her master's degree from us, and then she has so much industry experience now that she comes in and guest speaks and will adjunct at the undergraduate level in our facility and event management classes. Elliot and Tiger have both come to our sport industry conference and been featured panelists, not just because they're alums, but because they're just incredibly gifted, brilliant people in the industry. So all of those quality indicators are things that you want to ask about in other programs, because the quality of the content is going to come from the quality of the the degree or credentials that your faculty have. So that's a really important part to ask about. And then all of our faculty are also extremely approachable. They'll meet with you on Zoom, or if you need to do a phone call, if you're on a different, time zone, you'll be able to talk to your professors. So you're not just taking the classes from your professors and then having to contact your UOnline advisor to get help. So I was just on an hour-long Zoom today with one of our UOnline students. So he and I chatted for about an hour, and like Allison said, I have students every week that I'm meeting with. We have a current UOnline student right now who's moving to Miami, who maybe like Iva wants to switch to our campus program. And I know her, so she's like, "Hey, Dr. Dees, I'm moving to Miami, and I want to come, be on campus now." So these folks know us, and we're going to do everything we can to help them, reach the success that they're looking for.
Thank you for that. I did have one question that was asked. I chatted it, so y'all may have seen it, but just wanted to clarify. They did ask about a GRE score. And one nice thing about the admissions process for this degree, we do not require a GRE score. So if standardized tests aren't your jam, don't worry about it, because we don't require that. Okay, panelists, and specifically for our alumni, one last question for you, because I am being mindful of the clock, and I know we have a few more slides left to cover as far as the admissions process is concerned. But I'm very curious for all of you. Ultimately, you made the decision to pursue a master's degree. And I think that sometimes is the biggest decision, not just of where you're going to go, but are you even going to do it? So in your opinion, now that you guys have it, you did it in those 5 semesters, why is earning a master's degree important for someone who wants to be successful and seen as a leader in this industry?
I can jump in. Certainly in my industry, you would think, a lot of times, most of the top roles go to people that traditionally have been ex-athletes or, had been in the industry or anything like that. But now as the front office roles have kind of expanded, and certainly there's been a huge growth in where sport organizations take things at all levels. Having this degree, especially from the University of Miami, really, really prepares you for entrance into that and sets you apart. So when we did the degree, I believe it was 10 courses, and it really touched on all sorts of areas that I personally never had any insight to as a professional athlete, whether it was the marketing or the legal side of things, advertising, you had leadership. You had so many different courses that really, really kind of give you insight. And then it also sets you apart, because most of your peers who would have played, some of them don't even have their undergrad degree, far less a master's degree. So for me, it was a huge difference maker in where people have seen me. And when they look at my resume, they're like, "Oh, this guy, this guy's taking the time to do a master's degree. He did it while he was working." So it really gives you a different profound respect for the individual by completing it, so much so that I've been back and forth about doing a PhD, and I actually talked to Dr. Martin, because Dr. Martin was like, "Oh, maybe we'll work on doing something at the university." And I was talking to him, like Dr. Dees talked about coming in and doing some lectures and kind of seeing it. And my sister, she was a pilot for a PhD degree at her school, so it was one of the things that I've really, really kind of given a lot of thought to in the last few years, and it's something that I would do, and why not? If I'm doing it, it would be with the University of Miami. I guess that's why I haven't done it yet. So I think just at that level, it really gives you a differentiator in the marketplace, and for me, it's worked leaps and bounds. You can see, and even today, I just had the league, the MLS, passed on my resume to another club that was looking for a position, and they called right away and they're like, oh, we want to interview this guy. Can we have permission? So that's, it just works like that so quickly sometimes, just having that on your resume.
Can we call
And
you Dr. Tiger whenever you get your PhD?
There you go. Everyone else in my family has it now. My sisters have it, and they're like, what are you doing? You're slacking.
You would have the two coolest names. You have Tiger, which is already the coolest name, and then you'd be a Dr. Tiger. That would be
Yeah,
awesome.
there you go. There you go. Differentiate me from Tiger Woods again, please.
no, that's awesome. I mean, for me, even starting to hire people within the department, when we were looking at resumes, it's like everyone seemed to have an undergraduate degree. So it was like, all right. And then if they have the same amount of experience, like this person has a master's degree. So that resume goes to the side because that was more than most of the other candidates. So I think it does absolutely set you aside from others. I know in just hiring at the president's office, that was a no-brainer. Like if you had a master's degree, you were in a different pile than everyone else. So I think we're getting to that point in society where going to college is very well, most people can go to college at this point in time. So I think being able to do now a master's degree, it sets you a little bit higher. You're now with professionals. You're now being introduced to a lot more that others are trying to just figure out how experience, can get to that level. I know for me working in ops, you got to see so many different areas, but to be able to go to that person, you're all one team trying to make this well-oiled machine work. And to be able to not only understand how each department worked and what their needs were, I was able to say, like, I took a marketing class. Like, I understand where you're coming from. I know how to help you get to that next level. Or I took a sport law class. I'm not a lawyer, but I understand why compliance is such a big deal and why there's so many different things, especially with NIL and everything else that's coming up in the sports world. So I think to even have a degree that says, like, I've taken a whole class on this, I have a degree in this, I think that just takes you to a whole nother level that others can't really compete with. You can't, experience can be however you made it. Education is, this is my degree. It's a hard piece of paper. No one can take that from you. So I think that's something that counts so much more than just trying to get as much experience as you can. Get your degree while getting your experience. And that's just a no-brainer for me.
And I just want to add one thing to the end of that, Allison. Just, we've been kidding with, Iva about the research, but, that's what the University of Miami is here for. We're an AAU institution now. So, if folks are doing research on that, it's, basically the very top level of research universities in the country. And we were invited to join that prestigious group of institutions now. But another reason why this master's degree is so critically important in the sport industry is because it's an absolute behemoth now in terms of size and value. So when you're working in an industry, so just for example, at the end of the last NFL season, so August of 2023, the National Football League was valued at $163 billion, and it's almost as much as the NBA and Major League Baseball combined. So if you are going to work in an industry where one organization alone is worth $163 billion, having basically what is considered to be a sports specialized MBA is what is going to give you the knowledge and the qualifications to be employed at these types of organizations. Sport is not, a small industry anymore. It intersects entertainment, it intersects politics, it intersects commerce, it intersects transportation, it intersects every facet of life as we know it. And it's absolutely an enormous industry economically. And so if you don't have the business acumen to operate in this type of industry, it will make it even more difficult to break through. But when you have a master's degree where you've learned about, like Tiger said, every 10 different aspects of the industry. You will get a deep dive on how to operate on the business side of sports and all of those areas. That level of knowledge is what employers are looking for today to run organizations, of this size and value.
Dr. Dees, well said. I think that is the perfect note to end it on. So a tremendous thank you to the four of you for spending some time with us this evening and sharing your vast expertise on the topic. I feel like I learn something every time that I get to do one of these. So this has been so wonderful. Thank you all for that. Just a few more notes to touch on in regards to maybe what our enrollment process looks like. So we have a big deadline coming up here, Monday, March 11th, which I still feel like it's February, and it is definitely not. It is right around the corner. Monday, March 11th is our early admission deadline for our summer term. So for those of you who were realizing, hey, now is the time, let's do this. We have a summer term that begins in May, but that early admissions deadline is going to be on the of this month. So go ahead and get that application in. You can do that very easily. You can scan the QR code here right at the very bottom site. But one of the big exciting things that we have to thank you for joining us is our $300 deposit fee waiver and a 50% tuition waiver. So half off tuition. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. That's a huge thing right there. So that would be absolutely wonderful if you apply by March the 11th. If you, kind of like I mentioned earlier, have some questions after thinking it all over tonight and you want to reach out to us tomorrow, love to chat with you. You can give this 1-800 number a call, or like I said, we have that great chat feature that's available as well. So if you're maybe doing it at work, you can kind of slyly get those questions answered that way too, maybe. So once again, thank you everyone for joining us. Panelists, thank you so much for your time. Prospective students, thank you for joining us, and hope to speak with all of you very, very soon. Have a great evening.
Allison,
Yes, Leslie.
there was one question asking if it was recorded, if they can find a
Oh,
recording of
my
it.
goodness. I did not even see that. Thank you for the shout out. Yes, it was recorded. We post these up on YouTube, but we will also be sending this link out. So as soon as this recording stops, our marketing team will kind of get that all together and we will be sending that out. So absolutely. Thank you for catching that, Leslie.
No problem.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.